Now, like I said, as we are just starting, I suggest beginning with the server-side topic. These vulnerabilities are generally simpler to grasp since they only require understanding what's occurring on the server. Right? The resources and lab in Portswigger are designed to build foundational knowledge and skills that you frequently use. I said that because I want us to open like a Portswigger account. Now, what do I mean by a Portswigger account? Check your Google Classroom. I've sent you the link there. It's a platform whereby you learn about web security. Like you learn it at your own pace, not the way I am like, let me say, trying to rush us through this thing. I'm going to give you the explanation you need, and I'm always available on Telegram to give you any kind of guide. But then, I want you to have your own account so that you know that the training that you're undergoing is actually world class. Get so you are going to see those examples I'm talking about, the vulnerabilities I'm talking about. Then at the same time, you'll be able to solve some real-life challenges ranging from easy, apprentice, practitioner to difficult. Yeah. So if you are able to imagine on SQL vulnerability or SQL injection, you are able to solve apprentice, practitioner, and difficult challenges on it. You know that any attack that comes any website that comes your way, and you peradventure notice that website is vulnerable to SQLI, what is dead? What do I mean by dead? You mean that you can bring it down, you can do whatever it is, like the impact of SQLI. You can actually let that website suffer that impact. Sorry, that's actually a wrong statement. That's not the goal. You're not actually meant to make any websites suffer for the impact of something. You're actually meant to like work as a white hat hacker. Don't let it make you think that I am a. But let's continue. So moving to the next, like I said, that's the reason why we have like server-side topics that we are treating. Now, on to the next, we have SQLI. These are the topics that we're actually going to treat today. It's quite a lot. So you should know that we have a whole lot of things to deal with. SQLI, authentication, path traversal, and the likes of them. You can see everything on the screen. These are the topics we are going to treat today. Apart from this race condition, I have my reasons for not taking race conditions. And this no SQL injection. So those are the two we will not talk about. Others, we are going to talk about them today. Now, you can see inside of it, we have like labs. Follow the cursor. You can see 14 labs, 6 labs, 5 labs, 11 labs, 5, and the likes of them. This is the idea behind it. I'm going to explain the vulnerability in the simplest way I can, using different kind of examples that I can. That's real life example. I can use house, building, on anything to explain it. But then, I'm not going to solve the lab yet. I will solve the lab tomorrow. But don't expect me to come and solve 14 labs for you tomorrow. No, I'm not doing that. I'm going to solve like, let me say 2 or 3. The expectation is that we are going to complete the labs. Same with path traversal. I'll solve 2 or 3. The expectation is that we're going to complete what? The remaining. So I'm already giving you heads up as how the assignment is going to be. It's going to be so rocky. From now till, you have till Friday. Anyways, in the Google Classroom, I actually warned us that it's going to be, this period is going to be like rocky or stiffy or very, very serious, because we are moving into like a core aspect, a core and a major aspect of cybersecurity. The moment you are good with all these things, the word is yours anyways. Yeah. Okay. So that's like a quick heads up as regards how tomorrow is going to be. We solve the labs, few like just small amount of the labs. The remaining, anyone I know I'm not solving, you know what is your assignment. You are going to do. You must do it actually. Yeah. So these are the ones we are going to choose. So let's move straight to the first one. I just explained SQL. We're not talking about SQL because we've already talked about it before. Now I would want somebody to briefly, please briefly, we are actually looking at time. Briefly explain SQL injection. SQL injection. I need somebody. Mr. Daniel was the first person. Okay. Mr. Daniel, what is SQL injection?
Okay, good day, sir.
Yeah,
in my own, I'll put it in my own words and understanding. First, SQL has to do with the database of a company or an organization or of a site. So the SQL injection has to do with an attack that involves the manipulation of such databases.
Okay. Can you tell me the impact? No, before you tell me the impact. Okay, no. Let me allow another person to speak. Thank you very much. Okay. How do we detect, how can we tell that this website is actually vulnerable? I'm talking of without scanning it with any of our scanning tools, maybe Zap or Burp. How can we tell, Mr. Steve, how can we detect that a website is vulnerable to SQLI? Mr. Steve, are you there? Okay, Mr. Akitude Fashino. Okay, Mr. Steve is here.
I'm here. Okay, I'm here. So basically, if you can manipulate the instruction, that's like the information of what goes to like false or positive or negative in a database, then you can literally say that this database is vulnerable. For example, let's say, normally it's like an input-output kind of command, yes or no. So if you can bypass that by putting in another information, maybe saying 2 times 2 or 2 is equals to 2 or something like that, and it pass through in that way, that already database already vulnerable for anything.
Okay, yeah, I like what you said, but if I'm to give you mark, let me just say, okay, you passed because of you got the idea, but then I'll just give you like 5/10, but it's still all right. Yeah. Before moving on to the impact, an easy way to tell that a website is vulnerable to SQLI by what they call input field. Now terminology is actually very, very important in this this stuff that we are doing, our course, or I don't know how to call it, cybersecurity. Yeah. So in a website, we have input field. Those fields that actually you are going to put something inside of it. Now, the moment you can put, let's say, like a string, and you watch out for the response, then we're not talking about exploiting it yet. You put like a string and you watch out for the response, then you can easily tell if that website is, what did I say? Is it a string? Like, what's the name of this thing? Like apostrophe, is it apostrophe? That one mark that is at the top, I think it's apostrophe. I think it's what we call it. If you can put it and you watch for the response, then okay, this particular site is vulnerable to SQLI. Right? But me, what I do to detect, I first of all run with my scanning tool. Like that, then I can easily tell, okay, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I'm searching for. Okay, last person, tell me like the impact. What are the sufferings an organization can have if their website is vulnerable and is exploited? That's SQLI, vulnerable to SQLI and is exploited at the same time. What is the impact? Akintunde Fashino. Your hand has been upstairs. I don't know if you're answering the question. Another person, please. Mr. Daniel Idoko.
If the website is exploited, their data can be stolen, which can damage the organization reputation.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move to the next one. Let's move to the next one. Okay, good. We have authentication. Authentication. Now, don't see it as authentication is like a vulnerability. The word authentication is not a vulnerability, but you can use something like broken authentication. Don't see the word authentication as a vulnerability. Now, let me explain it in like a way we can understand it. First of all, what we are looking at here is like what they call authentication vulnerability. Right? Authentication vulnerability. So you can, while you stare at the screen, while you stare at the screen, looking at the diagrammatic explanation of this authentication vulnerability, let me explain it I'll break it down in like as simple as possible. Now, just imagine you have like a secret club, and you need a special password to get in. That password is like your authentication. Yeah. So it is just like a process of making sure that the person that is trying to get into your club is really who they say they are. Now, don't get it twisted. There is a difference or a major difference between authentication and what authorization. So I think I've asked this question before, but then I'm not going to ask again. Let me just go straight in explaining it. Authentication is like when you are showing your ID to prove who you are, to show who you are. Meanwhile, authorization is, let's say you've already shown who you are now. Then now, what now happens after you've shown who you are? You get, like now, you want to enter through a door. Now in the door, and I ask you, let me see your ID card, Mr. Kelechi, let me see your ID card. You now show me your ID card. You have been authenticated. It means you're actually authentic. You're the authentic person. You're the authentic owner. Now, once you've entered the building, what are you allowed to do once you are inside? What are you allowed to do? For example, are you just allowed into the club, or you can actually enter the club? You can go to the backstage. You can scatter the DJ's equipment. I'm just giving like an example. Mr. Ahmed, please, I'm going to answer the question later. So that's the difference between authentication and authorization. Now, there are three main ways we do this. One is like something you know. I'm sure you are familiar with this from your Cisco class. Another one is something you have, and the third one is something you are or something you do. That's the biometrics. Let's start with something you know. What is something you know? Can someone give me example? Take for example, you want to enter a club now, and one of the ways I want to use for authentication, I want to use to verify that you're actually authentic. Now, there's a tag, something you know. Can someone give me one of the things that fall under that something you know section? Yes, Mr. Tolulope Akinwumi.
Something you know can be your password or answer to a security question as you know before.
Yeah. Okay, now it's correct. Now the next one is something you have. Something you have. Anybody? Mr. Ezekiel. Something you have.
Like an ID card, an identification card.
Exactly, like an ID card, a swipe card, like just anything. Thank you very much for that answer. Now, something you are or something you do. Don't let us use something you do. If we go into something you do, is actually like more technical, like your gait, your walking posture. I've seen security mechanisms that actually use the walking posture of somebody. I'm talking of very high value security mechanism. Let's talk about something you are. Can someone give me an example? Sanguine, Mr. Sanguine. Adetunji. Something you are. That's like the biometrics. We're looking at biometrics. Any
international passport.
International passport is like something you have. I'm talking like something you are. What you are exactly. I'm sorry, I lost you there. Mrs. Joy Umo. Mrs. Joy Umo. I can't hear you. Seems like you are talking, but I can't hear you. I lost you there.
Fingerprint of it.
Thank you very much. Your fingerprint. Yeah, your fingerprint, that's something that you are. That's your fingerprint. When I made mention of biometrics, I was referring to that. Okay, now I shouldn't talk about why or how authentication is important. We all know that authentication is very, very important. Now, how can it go wrong? Now, sometimes the way we check if someone is who they say they are is not very good. Now, take for example, the person's password is very easy to get, or there's a mistake in the way the system was built. Now, hackers can actually exploit these mistakes to get into places they shouldn't be. Now, what happens if authentication fails? That's where like this, like authentication vulnerability. We can put our hands down so that when I ask another question, I will get you that okay, you're actually responding to that question. Thank you. So now, if someone gets past the authentication and into your club without permission, remember I'm using club as an example, it could actually be bad. The person might steal things and do a lot of things. So translate that into websites. The wrong person gets in, you know what will happen. How do we find and fix this authentication problem? Now, if you look at the screen, what you have on the screen, you can see the different things that we're actually meant to talk about step by step. But then, the impact, no, the ways of preventing or the impact will be your assignment also. Remember, assignment for today, that's Saturday. Like, I'm not saying you should submit anything, write anything. I'm just saying read it up, go and read it up, the impact. The moment we start tomorrow's class, that's going to be like the first thing. I would ask questions about the impact of all these vulnerabilities before we now move into the practical aspect. Yes, know what will happen when this thing has been exploited, this vulnerability has been exploited. Yes, know like the degree of the devastation it can cause. Yeah, so we already know how to exploit authentication vulnerability. Yeah, so in a real life sense, you are showing ID when the ID doesn't actually belong to you. Can someone give me one method? It's actually, I don't even need to teach you before you know it. It's a popular method that we can actually use to exploit this authentication vulnerability. One very popular attack method that we can use to exploit authentication vulnerability. Mind you, no scanner will tell you this thing. No scanner will tell you that a system is vulnerable to that. Mr. Ezekiel.
I think it's DDoS, denial of service.
No, I don't want that. It's a very popular one.
Can I
Mr. Sorry, I should actually mute everybody. I should have used it before. Mr. Thomas Taiwo. Thank you very much. That's actually correct. So now, brute force attack is like one way you can actually exploit that authentication vulnerability. Like I said, no scanner. Please, hands are up. If your hand is up or your hands are up, you just put it down so that we know that you're actually responding to what I'm saying. No scanner will tell you that hello, www.facebook.com is vulnerable to authentication vulnerability or authentication attack. No, that one's just like some kind of like special case scenario. So for your brute force attack, you would have like a word list. You would have like a word list that you can always like, it's similar to dictionary attack now. You have a word list that you can always get your words from. You can create one using Crunch. You can create a word list using Crunch. You can at the same time locate one. There's one that is always on your system for this thing. I'm sure you know of rocky.txt. We talked about it before. So let's move straight. Let me show you. Let me show you guys about Crunch. I don't know if this guy will be able to now. Okay. I'll share my screen now. I'll show you. I just hope it does. Now, Kali. Now, I'm sure you can see my screen. Now, let's locate PWD. Okay, fine. So let me go back. CD. let's okay. So let's rock you. I think we have to go inside that place where it's actually located. See the, please follow the screen, what you can see on the screen. Is it, I don't know, is it clear enough? Let me get your reaction. You can use that that live questions, that live session Q&A. Yeah. If you can see the screen very well. At what point do you decide? At what point do you decide whether to stay on Windows? What really determine the approach experience? Okay, to answer the question, I would say experience. Yeah, not intuition, please, not intuition. Now, there was somebody that asked me a question. Let me see if he's in the class. Let me see. I'll catch him now. If he's in the class. Babalola, Babatunde, where is he? He's not in the class. This boy is watching football. Babatunde is not in the class. I'm checking again. Okay, he's in the class. Wow. Let me see if he's even paying attention or he's watching football. Okay, he has already said he wants to speak. Yeah, he's paying attention. Hello, Babalola, are you in the class?
I'm in the class, sir.
Okay,
I'm in the class.
Yeah, so Mr. Back to that question that you asked in the group. You were like, at what point? Yeah, Babalola asked the question when we were trying to solve one of the challenges. Which challenge is that? That one that has 1, 2, 3, that has 3 pictures. I think it's series. Yes, series. We're trying to solve series. So he asked me, he was using Kali. I was not like, he now asked me, okay, sir, how do I view the pictures in my Kali? I told him that, my bro, why are you using Kali? Like, why not just go and use Windows now? You use Windows, everything is easier. So from experience, I know that I actually gave him the command he could use to view the pictures. But then there's no point in making things difficult when things can be easier. So I just easily told him that, okay, use your Windows, everything is going to be smooth. Now, at a stage, there's a stage now that you want to take, for example, you want to get the metadata of a particular file. You can decide to use any website too, but it's now faster to use Kali. All you just need to do is press X2. Okay, good. Let me show you one of those challenges. I'll show you one of those challenges, and I will now show you. I'll just show you the final answer. If that's the final answer, I'll show you alone. Let's go there. Sorry for digressing. Let's go there. Okay. Okay. So, what am I looking for exactly? What am I looking for? Sorry, please give me 1 minute. Okay, I want to go to. Sorry, please. Let me. Sorry about it. So you can see the screen. Now check one of those challenges there. I'll look at that painting. Painting. I think that should be, which challenge is that? One of the challenges you were solving, I think is arts. Yes, art. Is it arts? Yes, arts. So you have painting. Now, see what I'm going to do now for painting. So just so I'm going to use XML to now you can see. So we have this. Now let's just say we want to scroll up. We'll scroll up and we check. Scroll up. You can see the different information attached to this picture. That painting is actually a picture. Let me close down this. You'll see that it's a picture. This is the painting, right? What you can see is just painting, then painting one or JPEG. But then once we check the metadata, you see the different information attached to it. Now let's start from the very beginning. Like the exchangeable information. This is the file size 2.8. I'm not going to go through everything one after the other, but then look at it. Now this is a copyright. You can see flag. So for arts, that's actually the way to solve that challenge. So you can see that this one is actually easier. So now let's move on to what I was saying. I'll clear the screen here. So now I was talking about word list, right? So somebody said, I think Mr. Patrick, no, Mr. Thomas Taiwood has said brute forcing, right? So using that same brute forcing, like I said, you need like word lists. Very important. You need word lists. And sometimes you can prepare your own word list. You can use already made word lists. Let's say you are going to brute force a password field or input field for a password. So now let's locate our rocku.txt file. So you can actually use locate rocku.txt. So it has already provided us with the distance, so we can see the, and we are going to copy this directory. Ctrl+Shift+C. We'll come here to copy. So let's first cancel this one. Word list. Now you see the difference. This thing that we have there. The Durable star is the word list. John, this is one. Now Rocku, you can see. I think we've unzipped this thing before, but you can see even SQL map has its own. So you can see for this, so you can just unzip it and use it. Now, if you don't want to use that one, let's say now, like when this guy was asking me question about Wi-Fi hacking, you want to do that one now, you need to prepare your, what do they call this? Like your own list of files. Take for example, you want to hack my this Wi-Fi. It's silly for you to come and be using rocku.txt because there's high chance I'm not going to use any of the passwords there. It has over billions of passwords, but then I won't use any of them there. Right. So let me look for Crunch. If Crunch is installed, you can see Crunch is installed here. Crunch. Just click on Crunch. It's going to open. It's a CLI tool also. You can see Ctrl+Shift++. So you can use Crunch to build your word list. Now let's check. If you don't know how to use any CLI tool, you can press the name of the CLI tool. Then you press -help. It's going to tell you how to use it. Let's see if it's not bringing it out, you can use man crunch. It's going to tell us how to use it more. Now let's see. So you can use crunch. This is the first synopsis. Crunch, minimum, maximum. Then the description. These are the things you can actually. Nobody's asking you to cram the way they use any CLI tool. Like I said it earlier on that every CLI tool can actually be used in as much as you know how to use command line. You can use any CLI tool that you want. So let's create this thing. Let's just create a basic one. Minimum is going to create is 2. Maximum is going to create is 10. Let's see what's going to create for us. Although we didn't specify anything. So You can see what it has created for us. It will keep on creating it. Like it's this thing. I'll close it. If you want it to output the results inside a file, you can just say my password.txt. So it's going to output all these things inside the file. So let's close this. I'm just trying to tell you about how you can build your own word list. Tomorrow we'll do more practical about it. So moving on to the next vulnerability that we'll be dealing with. Is path traversal. Path traversal. Now, from the image you can see on the screen, look at this. We have path is another word you can call it is directory. Directory. So now, instead of you to look at this website, load image, file name is equal to gift.png. So instead of you to continue with that gift.png, we change it to what? File name. We put our own file there. So when it's going to execute this, it's going to in turn execute what we have built for him. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So in a more robust sense, we can say path traversal is like directory traversal. Directory. Like now, www.facebook.com/login/something/something. So the moment you are changing that, we are talking about this directory traversal. So it's actually an attacker that is using this thing can read files, arbitrary files on the server that is running that application. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like I said, let's assume we are viewing the source code of a page, of a web page, and we happen to see in the HTML script, we happen to see image source is equal to load image question mark. Okay, let me use this one you are seeing here. Let's use this one that you are seeing here. Load image question mark find name is equal to give.png. So now it's going to, like I explained before, it's going to take this thing, it's going to execute this. So instead of this, we can actually replace it with this. Any website that allows us to perform that is actually vulnerable. So what? To path traversal. Yeah. So how do we exploit this? So now, just take for example, we have a website. Let me share my screen. I'm going to type one, just any random websites from my head. I'm not using any real life websites to explain it. Okay, look at the screen where I have my Google. Okay, so look at the screen where I have this. Okay, now don't look at the source code. It's not the source code I want you to look at. Look at the link I'm going to press now. So we say we have https:// let's use example.com, just example.com, then load image. What are you loading? That's a question mark. Then file name is equal to, let's just say 20.png is a screenshot. So the moment I click enter, the idea is that it's going to load this. So what this thing does basically is to tell the website to load an image named 20.png. That's what it's telling the website. It's going to load an image named 20.png from a folder that is on its server. Now, if this website is not properly secured against path traversal attacks, you might be able to change the file name in that URL to something like, there's this thing for password. I think if you're even working with Dellbuster, you will see it is a popular directory that is going to come. So that you always have, I mean to say. Okay. So okay, if you are able to change that link or the URL, not link, the URL to something like this. I'm sure you know that this thing is actually used in Linux very well. So we now have password, and you now click enter. This stuff alone, this URL alone, or this crafted URL alone, can actually make the website load sensitive file from the server's root directory, giving you access to information like the user's credentials and stuff like that. Yeah. So like I said, one assignment that we are going to do is to read up how to prevent all these things. Also read up the impact of them. Actually, there's an aspect of cybersecurity that deals with that. Their own area of specialization is to talk about how to prevent all these things. They are the blue teamers. So what we are doing here is then like red teaming work. Yes, blue teaming is also like one aspect of cybersecurity. Let me say you want to be designing infrastructure that would be like difficult for people to come in and stuff like that. Okay, before we move to the next vulnerability, remember I said tomorrow we are solving the labs on them. That's the practical explanation of all these vulnerabilities. If you have any question, please ask now. If you have any question, please ask now. Okay, Mr. Samuel Billy. Samuel Billy. Mr. Samuel, you can ask your question. He's not talking. Mr. Okechukwu Charles, the floor is yours. Sorry, let me unmute you. Mr. Okechukwu Charles, the floor is yours. Yeah. Mr. Okechukwu Charles, I've unmuted you.
Can you hear me? Yeah, good evening, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, mine is a kind of a complaint. Mine is a kind of complaint. I don't know if this is the right time to go ahead, or should I wait?
I think you should wait, maybe after the class.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Mr. Ezekiel, you have a question? Ask. Mr. Ezekiel, okay, since no one is actually going to ask.
Can you hear me? Sorry, I was muted. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. We can hear you.
Okay, sorry. I was mistakenly muted. So, is it possible on this web security, right, and on Kali, all the tools we have there, is it possible to install them on your Windows directly? Or some of them have to be on Kali for you to use?
Yeah, you know, the question of all, like all in quotes, that's from A to Z, I don't know. I mean, no capacity to answer that. But most of those tools that you have in your Kali, you can actually have them in your Windows. Like I do. I have most of them. I have some of them.
Same here. I have some, but there are some, like that's why I just asked, because I know there's a lot of them. Especially like this John the Ripper, right? I tried to get this set up. I don't think it has an .exe file.
I would check online if there is.
Yeah, it's important. I checked, but I did not see all my downloads. I didn't see any .exe file. So I guess maybe we need to use one of these commands to run that. I don't know.
Okay, no problem. Okay,
Thank
you.
you.
Okay, so proceeding to the next one that we have on the list is OS command injection. OS command injection. Now, all these things that we are explaining with just mouth, picture, little examples, the practical demonstration will be done tomorrow. So it's good you know the definition of all these things, you know what they mean, so that when we now start using them tomorrow, you are going to you'll be able to flow properly. Okay, good. Now, talking about this is also known as shell injection. From this word shell injection, you can already tell like how you can execute the how you can exploit the vulnerability, I mean to say. Yeah. So it is basically a vulnerability that allows attackers to execute operating system commands on a server running an application. Now, you see those commands that you've always known, those ones that you've always known, like in your Kali, but it's not all those ones like directly that you can use. But then I'm just like, that's the idea behind it. So the vulnerability can actually lead to, let me say, complete compromise of the application and even the data therein. Yes. And what else can it do? Okay, let's leave the impact. Let's leave the impact to you guys, to you to go and like say read it up on your own. Now, how can we exploit this kind of vulnerability? So now, imagine a scenario whereby a shopping application needs to check the availability of products in different stores. Please get that clear. A scenario where a shopping application needs to check different products if they are available in different stores. Now, what is it going to do? It can execute a shell command with the product and the store ID as well argument. Let's say the product ID is 389, store ID is 29. It can actually execute that. Now, if the application is not properly secured, an attacker can manipulate these input parameters to execute arbitrary commands. A very good example is, let's say you use how do I explain? Okay, let me explain it the way it was explained in that Portugal. Let's go to Kali. Share screen. Follow me to Kali. Thank you. So we are in Kali right now. Blank. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I'm 1 minute, please. I want to check. Why is it showing blank? Okay, it's no longer blank. Okay. So let's clear this screen, please. Okay, so now let us assume we have something like this stock reports. Let me make it bigger. Stock reports .pl. Let's just say this is the command is actually running 381 381 then 29. So let's just say 381 is for the product ID, then 29 is the store ID. Now you can come and say, you can now manipulate this command. Instead of it to read 381.29, put this and echo, you go to echo rubbish, AIWEFWLGH and then 29. Now, what was the implication of this? I'm going to take away, sorry, I'm going to take away this. Yeah, so now what's the implication of this? The moment you execute this command, it can definitely exploit, let me say, like the application's database. This is like an arbitrary command that, let me see, an attacker can actually use. So how does this exploitation actually work? How does it work? Let's say you like appended it now. Now, first of all, you need to understand how the application executes the command and where the user input is used in all those commands. Also, the special characters that we added, like this and this and, you need to know that by adding that special character, the attacker, that's you, can separate the injected command, that's your own command, the command that you are putting, from the original command and force the server to actually execute it. So lastly, this particular one is the injected command. This echo and this gibberish thing written here is the injected command. And what is this going to be? It's going to be executed by the server. What is it now going to do? It's going to lead to different kind of behaviors that you don't even expect, or it can at the same time reveal sensitive information. This is like a surface level explanation of what this OS command injection is and how it works. For the impact, we read it up. Now, for the techniques, like I said earlier on, you can always use commands that you know before. Command like ping, command like who am I, command like nslookup, any of those commands that you know before, you can always use them. Even all those meta characters, like this one that I put, this is it ampersand? I think it's ampersand is called. This ampersand, you can actually use them together. So you use it to exploit this, exploit an application that actually is vulnerable to this. Yeah. So moving on to the next one, try to wrap it up as fast as possible so that we finish up everything. Please, you have more work to do. You have more work to do. So what's the work? The work is actually to go and read all these things up more, understand it better, so that by the time I now start explaining it, 2 hours is not actually enough to explain a good number of vulnerabilities for you. There are sometimes some classes are actually set aside for just SQLI, right? So just 2 hours, that's why you notice that I'm actually like very, very fast, skipping some things, explaining some things. The reason it's not fast-paced is because I want to try as much to cover. So now you on your own, I'm not in your various houses, but you on your own, go and read up all these things, know how to, like, let me see, practice them, so that when we now start entering the practical aspect, when we are just treating some vulnerable applications, we are now like exploiting those vulnerabilities, you understand completely what I am doing. The moment you don't do what I'm doing, forget it. What you just have is theoretical knowledge. You'll be able to explain it, but then if they give you system, or if Access Bank allows you to come and work, you'll not be able to do anything. Let's proceed. Business logic vulnerability. I don't actually like that name, business logic vulnerability. I would just prefer to call it let me see, application logic vulnerability or logic flaws. Logic flaws is better. Yeah. But I think the reason why they named it business is because it actually refers to like set of rules that defines how the application will operate. Yep. So what are they? So just think of them as let me say, hidden traps in the design and implementation of an application. just like I said, for one of those vulnerabilities, I can't remember that exact one. Nobody will tell you, no scanner will tell you at alpha, this thing is vulnerable to business logic vulnerability. They won't tell you. You're actually meant to observe it yourself. Now, how does it work? Now, basically, when I refer to attackers, I'm talking about you. It allows attackers to exploit unexpected behaviors and to, if you want to manipulate the application, or anyhow you want to do it, it can allow you to do it. So think of it as, let me say you already know how the application operates. Now, these rules, they don't dictate the application, the way they will behave in different scenarios. Now, these vulnerabilities, they actually can be exploited when there are flaws in the design process. You've seen those flaws. When I mean flaws, I mean like mistake. Yes, mistake. Now, it's going to allow like our attackers to bypass some rules or manipulate those rules, or manipulate them for different malicious purposes. As for the impact, we know what the impact is. Most of all these vulnerabilities that we're talking about, we know the impact of them. But let's talk about the examples of this business logic vulnerability. Say you manipulate transactions or you bypass authentication. Those are examples of business logic vulnerabilities. So in a way, it's even like linked with authentication vulnerability. So as for the prevention, like I said, we read it up. It's our responsibility in a way. For the blue teamers, it's our responsibility. But then if you're a red teamer, it is not 100% your responsibility, let me be honest with you, like how to prevent it and stuff like that. It's those people that are actually building the site or doing whatever it is that they should do. They would like know how to build it properly. So the next that we have is information disclosure, access control, file upload vulnerabilities. Then we continue to maybe client side. I'll start from the last one. File upload vulnerabilities. I'm not going to say much about it. From the name, it defines it all. File upload. You upload a file. In that file, there is like malicious code written there. The moment a web application can actually allow you to upload such a file, and you know now it's not just to upload, now you upload and run it. You can upload such a file and run it with the malicious code that is written there. Boom, you are good. Now, if you can remember very well, there was this challenge I solved actually. You guys were not able to solve it. I think it's Bash. Bash is the name of the challenge. Bash, right? Yes, Bash. Yeah, is it Bash? No, it's not Bash. Escalate. I can't really remember the name, but the point is that I was able to manipulate the file. Like we had a Python file. The Python file imported a library. Now I was not able to create my own library. So instead of importing the normal PyFiglet, it imported my own PyFiglet. So just take that as a case study that there's a website that can allow you to upload your file. You can craft out any malicious PHP code and put it there, and it runs it. It's going to run it to suit your own taste. Tomorrow we'll see a practical example. So next is access control. From the name, it defines it all. Access, then control. Inside of it, they were talking about horizontal and vertical privilege escalation. I think we've talked about that in the class before. Whereby, I don't know, I think it was Mr. Chuka that answered that question. Right, I think so. Okay, I'm coming. File upload. Access control. Okay, yeah. We when we're talking about vertical. Okay, before that vertical and horizontal privilege escalation, what is access control vulnerability? Starting with access control, we know access control is like very important when it comes to maintaining security of web application. Take for example, you want to regulate or you want to check who can perform what action or what can perform whichever action or who can access whatever resources that we have that we made available. Yeah, that's where the idea of session management comes in. Session management, whereby something is tracking user session and stuff like that. So under that access control mechanism, we have the vertical access control, horizontal access control. We already explained vertical privilege escalation. We already explained horizontal privilege escalation. So the common ones that we have for access control is like broken access controls, whereby a user can access unauthorized resources or perform prohibited actions. Then vertical privilege escalation and the likes of them. Let me stop sharing my screen. Now, having said that, sorry, I'm almost done, Mr. Chuka. Having said that, tomorrow we check out live applications of all these stories we've been saying, how to actually exploit them. Remember what I said. First step is to what? Know that a system is vulnerable to this particular thing. Then the next step is to what? How can we exploit them? So tomorrow we see practical examples. So I'll open the floor for questions and answer now. Okay, Mr. Chuka, let's start with you.
Hello.
Sir, in the I forgot the other name. The vulnerability with the business logic example. In the diagram I saw there, it was the user tried to log in the first time was denied, tried to log in second time was denied, and then the third time was allowed. So I'm trying to understand, is it a brute force attack, or I don't understand how that works.
Okay, let me load up the picture. Share your screen, load up the picture, please.
Okay. I want to do that.
Okay, let me. Should I share my own screen? Let me share my screen. Let me share my screen. Okay. I'm coming 1 minute. Okay, you know what you're talking about, right? Like attempt 1, it didn't work. Attempt 2, it didn't work. In attempt 3, it worked. Okay. First of all, just know that the attacker is trying to exploit the flaws in any way that he can, any way that he can. So business logic vulnerabilities actually arise when let me say an attacker exploits flaws in the way the application handles the processes or the logic, or even let me say the workflows in that application. Now let's break it down. Let's see what actually happened. So let's say the first attempt, the attacker inputs incorrect credentials, maybe username or password, definitely what will happen? The application will reject the login attempt because the credentials do not match, right? So second attempt, let's say the attacker inputs another set of incorrect credentials. Again, the application will not accept, will reject the login attempt because the credentials still they don't match. And third attempt, the attacker tried and it worked. This could happen based on, let me say, several potential business logic vulnerability. Not necessarily a brute force attack. You might want to call it a brute force attack, but just get it that the idea is coming from the fact that the attacker was able to exploit a flaw in the design structure. It will not be wise to say, okay, it will be wise actually. It will be wise to say, I don't know if it will be wise or not wise, to say weak password or accepting weak password is actually a flaw in the design mechanism. You know, there are some websites that, let's say, like the way my name is Bonnie, let's say I want to use Bonnie 123. Some websites will not actually permit me to do something like that. So I don't know, like I was saying, it could be wise to say that allowing users to create simple passwords is actually like a logic flaw or a logic vulnerability. Yeah, I hope that answers your question, because there are several reasons that could make the person actually get this content.
It's a bit clearer now. I get it.
Okay, thank you. Samuel, yeah, your question.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening, sir. Okay, sir, my question is
yes,
traversing a vulnerability. So,
it's about
so okay, what happened, like what you showed me is a kind of, for me, is a kind of using, okay, the traversing vulnerabilities.
Okay.
I mean the traversal vulnerability. So I want to ask, is it a kind of using OSINT command, like, because innocent, what you did that time was innocent is how you use Google Doc command to bring out a picture on a website or sometime in a database of a website. So I want to, is it related to like an OSINT kind of attack, OSINT kind of vulnerabilities?
Okay, it is not related.
Hello, sir.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Mr. Samuel. Mr. Samuel, can you hear me? Mr. Samuel, are you there?
I can hear you, sir.
Okay. Yeah, it's not related. Why? It's not related.
Yes, I can
It's not related. Because OSINT is basically you are using
yes,
any.
Sir, it's network. I can hear you.
Okay, basically OSINT is you are using any open tool available, any tool you have at your disposal. Most of the time, all of us will fall to Google. Google is our friend. So we use OSINT to actually carry out anything we want to carry out, any available tool to get publicly available information. That is OSINT. Traversal is a different thing entirely, based on the fact that if the web application can allow you to change the directory, input another directory, and it can run it, be it malicious or not, then that application is actually vulnerable to traversal. So you can see the difference between both of them. You can start. Thank God, Patrick.
Yes. Hello, good afternoon. Good
evening. Yeah.
Thank you so much for what you do, Mr. Boniface. God bless. I just wanted to ask, I don't know, with regards to the first what you did with Zap, the example you gave with Zap, I don't know. There were no practical examples using probably a website or an IP address. So I wanted to know if there was any if we had to try it with any website, we don't get into trouble. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, I think somebody asked that question earlier, or someone stated that concern earlier on. Let me. Yes, I'm coming. I want to get one vulnerable website. Let me check. Now, see. Okay, see. Please, everyone pay attention. I know that we've already reached the time, or we've passed the time. Somebody asked that question earlier on, so I'll use this opportunity to like just give like a. Geez, I've already. Let me load up my Zap again. So check out something. Check out something now. Look at my screen. You would see this is a vulnerable site. This site is a vulnerable site. Now be very careful. Be very careful of something. You know, I told you my own cybersecurity journey was a bit difficult, more difficult than what you guys are having. Now you guys are having like you have a tutor that can always help you out. Now, if you make the mistake of look at this site now, test PHP. Okay. Now, this is a vulnerable site, made vulnerable intentionally. If you make the mistake of imputing this URL in that attack field for your Zap, see what it's going to test for you. It's going to test just the site maps for this one. Like it's not going to go inside. You know, a website is like I said, like combination of web pages now. You open one door, you enter another door. You open one door, you enter another door. Now, if you at some point you actually need to like, let me see, enter. Once you enter, then you can actually proceed with this. So this is the information I'm going to be providing for that my Zap. Let me go to Zap. Zap is still loading. Okay, while my Zap is loading, we'll just do like a practical example. Then it's going to run it in the background. While it runs in the background, I'll attend to like other questions. So once it finishes, I would tell you. Somebody said he has a complaint, probably a complaint, yes. Mr. Okechukwu Charles.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Let me first of all appreciate your efforts. So far, so good.
Thank you very much.
It has been a very wonderful day once again. Please, I got a mail informing me that I've not been coming to class. It was a distress mail to say, and to speak of this program, I've been part and parcel of this program since we joined. I joined on the second week, and since that second week, I think I've only missed.
Yes, please let me come in. Sorry for cutting you in. The reason why I actually cut you in is because I addressed this at the beginning of the class. I think around past 3 or thereabouts. I don't know the exact time you entered the class, but maybe you missed that part of the class. I gave the possible reasons why they sent the mail. Yes, I gave the possible reasons. For the sake of your question, I'll just quickly recap. I said 1, new students. Like new students, I matched the names with the old students, so they did not really know that you people were new. Some people were new. So I said another reason is some people had like different names, like names on Telegram, names on Google platform, and name on whatever. So the names kind of like the discrepancy in the names actually caused you will be present in class, but when I'm taking attendance, I will not see the name in the attendance group. So that one is also another fault. And there's another fault that I observed. Some people were actually present. I checked the attendance list because some people came to my DM. I checked the attendance list, and truly, I ticked it for them. So it showed like more than 50%. But they still said they got mail. So So that would be mistake on their part, not our part, not like you, not your part, you as a participant, and not me, the tutor, not my part actually. I sincere, like most sincere apologies for that. Also, please send me a DM so that I'll also check your own to be sure where your own issue came from. Because I also would not like it if you are attending and they send you a mail that you're not attending. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Yeah, welcome. Please remember to send me a mail, a message. I mean. Okay, now, Mr. Samuel, let me hear what you have to say. Okay, the Zapper has loaded completely. Remember, I've copied the stuff, so I will share the screen. So while I share the screen, I'm coming. While I share the screen, you can see now this is our Zap. So let's automated scan. Let's quickly scan. Take away this one. Attack. So it's loading. It ran that first one ASAP. So it's going to run another one. Forget about the speed. It's going to load another one. So it's going to check different directories. It's going to check different directories. And while it is loading or whatever it is doing, it's been testing. Let me hear from Mr. Samuel. Mr. Samuel, what do you have? What's the question you have for us?
Okay, sir.
I can't hear you, please. I can't hear you. I can hear you now.
Okay. I think when we're trying to exploit the site, I think I decided that my probably have other expertise. As my first detail that we exploit.
Did someone get him? The person should just raise up his hand. Let me hear from the person. From everything you said, I didn't really get it.
Okay, let me get sir.
You can recap, but the problem is I'm not really hearing you. That's the thing. Okay, please, while you recap, another person should please listen to his question attentively.
Okay.
Yeah, come again.
I think mine was like exploit the site. I feel like the guys that were trying to probably have that work site for them. From asking that
Did someone get that? Please, you got that. Maybe I don't know if you need to move away from any speaker you're close to. Okay, let's see if Mr. Donald heard him very, very well. Mr. Donald, you were raising up your hand. Did you hear him? You wanted to tell us what he said.
No, I didn't hear him. I think he's close. He's reverberating because he's close.
Maybe you type your question there. Please type your question. Okay, and okay. I stopped sharing the screen. Let me open it again. So, Mr. I don't know who made that request. I think it's Mr. Patrick. Mr. Patrick. Now, and alongside another person request earlier on. Now, see now, this is like a sample vulnerable site. We are testing it. Now, let's quickly go through the results. Alerts. This one is still coming. This yellow flag is kind of telling as a medium listing, like medium risk. This one is like what low. This yellow. This one that is thicker, like red yellow, is like medium. If you see one that is thick red, is actually what they call it, high. So now the risk and the confidence. The risk is this is like a description of it. Let me open this one, the first one. This is a description of it. Let's go to this one. It's trying to tell us that the risk is medium. the confidence that this thing exists there is high. You get? So there's very high chance that this is not a false positive result. So you know that if you are testing for this thing, look at the description. Content security policy is an added layer of security that helps to detect and mitigate certain types of attack, including XSS, data injection attacks. These attacks are used for everything from data theft to site defacement or distribution of malware. CSP provides a set of blah 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 standard HTTP headers that allow website owners to declare approved source of content that browsers should use, and so on and so forth. But look at one thing it said. It said that CSP is an added layer of security that helps to detect and mitigate certain types of attack, including XSS, data injection. What does that tell you? And now look at what it said at the very beginning. Source, passive, CSP header not set. And what did it tell you here? This CSP is actually what used to what mitigate certain types of attack. What's the implication? It means this. No, let me answer. Can someone answer that question? What's the implication?
It means that the flexible to XSS and data injection.
Exactly. So that's like an inkling. That's already told you something. I'll give you like one insight. I don't know if you are understanding the whole gist. Like now, you have this website. Instead of just going blindly and start assessing, you already have like an inkling, like you have an inclination towards where you are going to. So one expo is given to you. Look out for XSS. Look out for data injection attacks. Now let's check out more on this stuff. Check out this site map. Basically saying the same thing. Check out this. Now, if you see this link, if you actually load it, it's going to give you something. It will get this information for you, robot.txt. It will get it for you, but I'm not sure there's anything interesting that will be there. So and so on and so forth. One thing that you must notice is that some websites will not actually let me stop the recording. Okay. No. Some websites will not actually allow you to, let me see, crawl further. Take for example, you are working in a building now, there is a door. You can't pass through the door. Why? You need to provide something. In this case, it's like username and password. So if you go and send like login page of the website for this thing to crawl, it's not going to crawl far. You just crawl the outermost part. It will not enter inside. Why? Because of you did not provide the username and password. So we are going to like be ending the class now. You remember the assignment. Assignment is go and read how you can prevent against all these vulnerabilities. You know it. Just read it and know it. Also know the impact of each and every one of the vulnerabilities we discussed. And lastly, read up those vulnerabilities well, as tomorrow's class will be like the practical aspect. We'll just be jumping into applications that are vulnerable to that. Please do have a very nice day and night. I'm sorry for taking 60 minutes out of your time.